For today's quilting tip, we're looking into squaring up half square triangles and more with the Clearly Perfect slotted trimmer. We're going to discuss what it is and how we use it to square up half square triangles, split square triangles, hourglass blocks. I'm even going to give you a little tutorial on tube quilting. If you've never heard of that, it's pretty interesting. I'll also give you a price comparison when it comes to similar products and tools. So if you saw my 10 forgotten quilting products video, you know that I am on a mission to finally start testing out all the quilting gems that I've purchased, but I never tried. Have you ever bought a quilting product, maybe a tool or a ruler or a notion, and you ended up just stashing them away unopened in a drawer closet and then you totally forgot you had them? Well, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what your quilting gems are. I have a lot of these, and this Clearly Perfect slotted trimmer designed by Carrie Carr is one of them. So let's get started. Hi, I'm Mary from Joyful and Mary Quilting. Today I'm going to demonstrate the Clearly Perfect slotted trimmers designed by Carrie Carr. So let's take a look at what we get when we order this particular product. First of all, it came in this little baggie and it had paper backing on each of the slotted trimmers just to keep them from getting scratched. So I took that off so that I could use them. And then it also had this instruction paper that has not only directions on how to use the ruler, what it's like, and how you position your fabrics, but it also gives some additional suggestions that I tried as well. So I'll show you how that worked for me. The trimmers come in trimmer A, which is in the 1/2 inch unfinished size, which would be 1 1/2 inch, 1 inch finished, 2 1/2 inch, 2 inch finished, and so on. Or the trimmer B that comes in the full inch size. Now keep in mind, these are unfinished. So this is a size before these blocks go into the quilt. 2 inch, which means 1 1/2 inch finished when it's in the quilt, 3 inch, 2 1/2 inch finished when it's in the quilt, and so on. I rarely have a block that would be a full inch. Most of the blocks that I use are the 1/2 inch size when they are unfinished. So this is the trimmer A, that I probably would use most often. Now it also comes in an A2, which is much larger, and it takes you from 1 1/2 inches all the way up to 10 1/2 inches. For me, honestly, I probably would not use a really large half square triangle, 10 1/2 inches, and trim it with one of these. That wouldn't be something I would do. But you can, and it actually will allow you to trim the very small squares all the way up to that large square if that's something you do. So I thought that was a good feature. In addition, you need to be aware of a couple things on the ruler before you use it. First of all, this dashed line that's underneath every one of those unfinished sizes, that's the seam line. That is where you place your seam right underneath that dashed line before you trim. So that's important that we know that. And one of the really good features about this is you trim off the dog ears. There are slots, which is why it's called the slotted trimmer, all the way along the edges so that depending on what size block you are cutting, you can trim off those little dog ears. What you do is you will take your cutter, open it up, and then it positions nicely right in here, and you can cut this way and that way. Now, the inventor, Carrie Carr, says there's no need to move your trimmer at any time when you are trimming your blocks. And it's true, you can do it that way. I found it to be a little awkward unless I was standing to do this side as a right-handed person. The left side was easy, but this was a little awkward. I did find that using my 10-inch rotating mat, my Martelli mat, that really made a difference, and it helped me to be able to trim that more easily. So I'm going to show you using that just because I found that to be a little bit more helpful. So those slots I think are really important. So although the ruler says half square triangle, you can see right here, HST, half square triangle, is written on the trimmers, it really can be used for half square triangles, for hourglass blocks or quarter square triangles, whatever you want to call those, or the split half square triangle block. They work for all of that. In addition, you can do some tube quilting, and I'll talk about that in a second, but that's where you take 2 pieces of fabric, 2 strips, the width of fabric, you sew 1/4 inch on the top and on the bottom, and then you use the trimmer to cut those half square triangles. So interesting, you can do a lot at one time when you use that technique. So here's the process. I'm going to show you how we come up with these 3 blocks. I've already sewn them together and they are ready for trimming. Additionally, when I used the trimmer, I did find that it slipped a little bit. I wasn't able to keep it in position or locked in position while I was doing my cutting. So all I did was, I have these true grips. They're little tiny circular vinyl pieces that come on a card, and you just peel them off and you can stick them on the back of your rulers. You can't see these because they're transparent, which is a good thing. You don't want them to take up space on your ruler so that you can't see the markings, but they're clear. And I put actually a round circle here, a round circle here, one here, and then the two little dots I put right there just for good measure. I wanted to make sure, I knew I probably would use most of the area right here, so I wanted to make sure that everything kind of laid flat and stayed in place, and that's why I put them there, but you can put them anywhere you want. Also, you can use this clear tape. Sorry about the mess on here. I tried to take it off neatly, the packaging, but it didn't work that well, but you can see what it is. It's Walgreens. It's just dressing tape that you would use, a medical tape. It's a little opaque. It's not as clear as those true grips, but it still works to keep your ruler from slipping. So if you don't want to spend much money and you just want to have something, you can cut little pieces and put that on your ruler as well. I think it works great. So let's talk about the process for trimming our half square triangles and our other blocks. So I have my rotating mat here just because, like I said, I like using that. The first one I'm going to show you is trimming a half square triangle. Now this one is 2.5 inches. This one is larger. We're going to make this one actually a 3.5 inch half square triangle. That's how I've cut it, just so that it's easier for you to see. So I'm going to look on my ruler, on my trimmer, and I see my 3.5 inch dashed line right underneath that 3.5 inch. Now I sewed with a darker thread just so that you could see it. And we're going to take that ruler marked line and place it right on top of the stitching line. Not above it, not below it. You want it right on top to make sure that it's accurate. It all works out. So then I'm going to take my cutter, and you can see, since I have my little true grips on here, it's not going to go anywhere. It's not moving. I want to make sure that I have a good handle on it as I'm holding it here, and I'm going to trim one, and then I like to spin my mat, trim twice. Then we know this is a 3.5 inch, and there's those little tiny dog ears that we want off. Fits right in, and it fits right in there. This is just so slick. So I've taken this, I've trimmed all those little pieces. Now this is the test. Does this measure 3.5 inches when we've pressed it? So I'm going to press it, and there it is, all nice and pressed. And let's check. Actually, I'm going to use that, take advantage of that diagonal line here just to position my square properly. Look at that. 1, 2, 3.5, 1, 2, 3.5. It is absolutely perfect. I am thrilled with the way that this came out. So this is a good one. When it comes to my half square triangles, I did a little one, I did a bigger one, and they came out nice. So let's see those next blocks that I did. The little quarter square triangle, or the hourglass. This is a little smaller. I've got it all nice and neat. It's ready to go. It's ready to be trimmed. Now, the slotted trimmer has a little line on it that you can line up the seam that I've sewn right here with that center line. Not you can line it up, you need to, because that's what's going to make your points accurate. So this is going to be a 2.5 inch. I've got my 2.5 inch line right there. I'm going to place it right on top of the sewn line, that seam line, and then I want to make sure that that seam line that's going perpendicular to this seam line is actually right in line with the point of my trimmer. So it's there, it looks good. I'm going to trim here, here, and now remember, we've got that capability. We can trim here, and we're going to trim here. So you can go either way. I mean, it works either direction. Your cutter fits in there nicely. I love it. Okay, so here we go. Those little dog ears are all trimmed off. I only had to trim 2 sides. That's the beauty of this. Let's see how it looks. It looks really nice. Let's press it. So I've pressed it, and let's take a look and see if it measures 2.5 inches. So I've lined everything up, and it really looks good. We've got a nice 2.5 inch hourglass block. So that works really well. I'm really impressed. The last one I wanted to show you was this split square or split half square triangle, where we've got half square triangle here, and then this half square triangle is split in half with two other fabrics. So I have actually a larger one for this just to show you. There's the larger one, and I have the darker thread. So we're going to line this up. This is going to be a 3.5 inch one as well. Now we want this side up because that's where that seam is at the top, and we want to make sure we line that up. So I'm going to put my dashed line right over the seam that I've sewn. So let's trim that, trim this, trim this side, and trim this. Okay, and there we have our split half square triangle. So let's press it. And we know this needs to measure 3.5 inches. And once again, 1, 2, 3.5. So it looks great. We have a nice split half square triangle here. So we know those two work well. The last thing I want to show you is the tube quilting. Now I do have a little bit of a difficulty with the tube quilting because it comes up with bias edges in the end when it comes to our half square triangles, and I'm not crazy about that. But what you can do is you take a width of fabric, right sides together, you sew 1/4 inch across the top and across the bottom. Now I used a 3.5 inch piece here. Then I'm going to take my slotted trimmer, positioning it right here. We want to go almost to the edge here. I don't want it right on the edge just in case, you know, everything's not lined up right. Our stitching line does show through here. You'll just pick that out. It's nothing, it just pulls apart. But the crucial part is we want to make sure that our 4.5 inch marking is right on that seam. We're going to do the same thing like we did before. We're going to do one side and then the other side, and then we're going to trim those little dog ears off. Okay, so we've done that, and there we have another half square triangle. And I just, like I say, those little stitches that were left in there, just pull, and then we will press that toward the dark fabric. We'll continue doing that all along the edge. Now, if you look at the instructions on the slotted trimmer, when you do the tube quilting, it does show that you move the ruler over just a tiny bit, only because you just want to make sure it's always squared up every time, I think. I think that's the reason for that. So I have pressed this open and just checking my measurement. There I have a nice 4.5 inch half square triangle. Okay, but again, this is my issue, the bias edges. I'm just not crazy about that. If I had to do a whole bunch of these, I can see why this would be an easy way to do it. Pressing solution helps. If you spray it with a lot of pressing solution, that does make a difference. It does keep it a little bit more stable. The other issue that I have with this is, now that we've cut the first one off, we have to reposition our ruler on that 4.5 inch. We've got a little tiny bit here because you can see it can get off a little bit. So you want to make sure that it's exactly right. But here's my issue. Cutting this side over here is really hard. I don't cut this way. I'd have to cut this way, and that's just impossible for me. This is where I really feel like a rotating mat is more helpful. So I'm going to show you how I use my rotating mat. I'm going to turn my mat and actually cut this way. And I think that really makes a difference in that awkwardness of what way you're going to put it. So I've just got a little bit of extra right here. I'm going to cut this off, trim this back. I just like the rotating mat because I can just move it around. If you don't want to have your blade hitting the end there, you can pull it back toward you. And then this side as well. You're just going to put it in the slot and then pull it back. And there we have another piece. That little stitching line at the end, it just comes right out. There we've got another one. Then when we reposition, you have to reposition anyway, so it's not going to stay in the same spot every time. But we're going to put the trimmer back like we did at the beginning. Put it along that 4.5 inch line. Don't want too much waste over here. And here I'm going to cut this way, flip my mat around, and then again, I'm going to trim off those little edges, those little dog ears, and keep going. This is great for scraps, great for those 3.5-inch strips, 2.5-inch strips, whatever you want to do with it. But I think it's a really great tool. I think that it works well, very simple to get used to. I feel like with the true grips as well as the rotating mat, it really does work well. So where do you buy these? You can first of all contact your local quilt shop, see if they have them or if they can order them for you. You can also find them on Amazon or Fat Quarter Shop if you aren't able to locate them at your local quilt shop, and we have a link provided in the description. When I used the clearly slotted trimmer on my last YouTube video, some people asked me, do you like this better than the Bloc-Loc ruler? Well, I love the Bloc-Loc ruler, and I am always talking about this and how I use it, how accurate I think it is. I have been very impressed with the Bloc-Loc ruler. So when I tried this one, I really wasn't expecting it to live up to the expectations that I have based on my experience with Bloc-Loc. But you know what? It really did. It did the same thing. Now, the Bloc-Loc ruler doesn't slip, because it does have that groove in it that locks your block into the ruler as you're trimming. But you have to trim all 4 sides, so you have to keep flipping it, and that's where my Martelli mat works really well. The slotted trimmer, as you could see, I only had to trim 2 sides and my dog ears. That was also easily taken care of with the rotating mat, and the slipping that I experienced with this ruler, I put the little non-skid discs on it or the tape, and it really kept that from happening. So now I think they're kind of equal. I don't think I really prefer one over the other. Both of them work really well. They are exactly the same price when you purchase them if you look online. So I can't see a difference between the Bloc-Loc or the other. Now, some people have said, well, you can only cut 1 square, a 6.5-inch with the Bloc-Loc. No, no, no. Just like the slotted trimmer, you can use the groove on your blocks. Any size will work. So I had found the Bloc-Loc and the slotted trimmer both for $31.95. You may be able to find it for a better price. That's what I saw it as everywhere that I checked. I love them both. I think they were really great products. I was impressed. What makes me sad is that I bought this ruler so long ago and never took it out of the package. So I hope if you find one in your stash or in your drawer or in your cabinet, you take it out and use it. If you have never tried it before, give it a try. I think it gives you really good results. Again, same thing with the Bloc-Loc, but this is what I found in my drawer, and that's why I tested it for this particular video, and I was totally impressed with it. So I am always trying to be joyful, but I will always be merry. Stay tuned for more of those hidden treasures that I found. I'll have more videos going through the process of how to use those as well.